In June of 2016, our guest on today's episode received a life-changing cancer diagnosis. Nelson Beltijar was immediately hospitalized for supervision, evaluation, and chemotherapy treatments for the remainder of the year. The following year didn't prove to be any easier, with tumor removal surgeries, hospital discharges, in-home faintings, 911 calls, surgical wound complications, hospital readmissions, doctor appointments, cancer spreading false alarms, spinal infections, and in-home antibiotic IV drip treatments. By 2018, he was home, unemployed, and wheelchair-bound. In the blink of an eye, his everyday life as he knew it was taken away from him. While he smiled externally, his battle with cancer has forever changed him on the inside. Nelson committed himself to creating a blog to help those who have ever felt inadequate, insignificant, isolated, unseen, unheard, helpless, lonely, alone, scared, and unsure, and gives them a place where people can be injected with hope, positivity, and guidance. A place called The Positive Drip. Hi, Nelson. Hi, welcome to Comfort Kills.
Hey, hi, Jasmine. It's a great day to be above ground, I tell you.
Wow, yes. So I'm very excited to have this interview with you. When we met during our meet and greet, your story was just really amazing. It was amazing in that you took a diagnosis and you turned it into something to share with the world. And you've been able to communicate and connect with so many people across the globe since then. But I would really love if you can just share, Nelson, to start off right off the bat, kind of like what your history looked like, where your story started, and we'll go from there.
Whoa, sure, Jasmine. I just want to say thanks for having me. And to your audience, chances are there's nothing new that's going to come out of my face that you haven't heard today. But maybe Jasmine and I will say it in a way that it'll tickle your ear.
Yes.
And this conversation will be memorable.
Yes.
And if you want to know a little bit about me and where I started, just to let you know that I bleed the color red, the same as all of you people out there. And I'm just one of those guys that knows what it's like to climb that mountain of ambition and success, get to the top, enjoy the view for a while, only to come crashing down, spiraling down, losing everything that I'd ever worked for in the blink of an eye. So humbling, so humbling.
Right.
I was lucky enough to build a thriving physical therapy practice that specialized in injury assessment, treatment, and rehabilitation. And I'll never forget this. Man, it was it was May 2016, and we were on the second floor of my studio loft, celebrating, clanging the champagne glasses that were secretly filled with Diet Coke and ginger ale, celebrating because we had reached one of those goals that we didn't think we could reach, but we did. I was living the dream.
Yeah.
But a week later, 168 hours later, I was shockingly diagnosed with cancer. And I was forced to live in the hospital immediately for treatment, supervision, evaluation. And to add salt to the wound, you're not going to believe this. I even lost my ability to walk as a secondary complication. It was so shocking.
Right.
And as you said in the intro, my 2017 wasn't any easier. It was filled with tumor removal surgeries, hospital discharges, in-home faintings, 911 calls.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't catch a break. I couldn't catch a break. And it's pretty ironic, Jasmine, that I'm a physical therapist. My whole 2018 was spent with me having my own physical rehabilitation. I had to learn to walk again.
Yeah.
So humbling.
Wow.
My 2018 was filled with this undying goal to graduate from my wheelchair that I was a prisoner of for 3 years. And the goal was to graduate from that wheelchair into a walker, 2 canes, 1 cane, and eventually walking on my own triumphantly along with my friends and family again. That was the goal.
Right. Yeah.
But as difficult as that might sound, That was the easy part. That was the easy part.
Yeah.
As you know, I had to live in 5 different hospitals from 2016, 2017. I had to live there 24/7.
Yeah. Oh.
But my very, very first cancer doctor, let's call him Dr. K.
Okay.
Dr. K gave up on me.
Oh, no.
And he told my family that I was terminal and there was nothing he or the hospital could do for me.
Oh, my goodness.
And that he was going to transfer me to the palliative care unit so that way I could be comfortable and pain-free in my remaining days.
Oh, my goodness.
Jasmine, when I heard that,
right.
it's like my life flashed before my eyes, and the sword just swooped me right at the knees.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, self-pity kicked in for maybe about 10 minutes.
That's
and
it.
then angrily I said to myself, if I am going to die, if I'm going to leave this planet, there's going to be one more goal that I'm going to do. One more mountain I'm going to climb. And instead of me lying in my hospital bed waiting for the coffin to arrive, I promised myself that I would create this blog. This blog that's getting all this attention. And the reason why I wanted to write it was not for my own personal vanity. What I wanted to do was I wanted to collect my thoughts, my knowledge, what I've learned with my time on this planet. And I wanted to write it and leave it behind for my younger family members. You see, at that time, I had a 6-year-old nephew, a 5 and 3-year-old niece, 2 brand new born twins, which I knew I was never going to get a chance to see grow up. And it broke my heart.
Wow.
But I promised myself, before my last breath, I'm going to create this blog and leave these nuggets behind for them. So that way I could still be a part of their lives after I'd passed away.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. You know, when it's true what they say, adversity truly introduces a person to themselves. And instead of crumbling, I figured out a way to just fight before my last breath.
Okay.
But you want to hear something funny?
Yeah. Tell me.
It looks like the joke's on me. Let's fast forward to September 2018. Dr. K is in my rearview mirror.
Okay.
I'm with a brand new cancer team at a brand new hospital, brand new doctors. And these doctors fought for me. They did not give up on me. They fought for me. And then on September 28th, 2018, I was miraculously stamped cancer-free.
What?
And they told me to go live my life.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
And 2, that blog that we're talking about, that blog that I left behind specifically for my younger family members, that's getting all this attention, has trickled across the planet and developed a global readership.
Right. That's amazing.
That was never the plan. Never.
Right. Yeah.
And 3, an online community is walking alongside that blog. You know, like you said, maybe, just maybe the words of feeling insignificant, invisible, alone, lonely, scared, unsure. Maybe these words are words that other people on the planet are feeling. And maybe that's why it's done the way it's performing the way it's performing today. Like I said, the positivedrip.com was an accident.
Right.
I did not ever in my wildest dreams or imagination ever think that I would be writing something like this. I'm not a writer. I'm one of the most private guys you'll ever meet. But I promised myself, if I'm going to get to live, there is no way I'm going to go through all that hell, go through that fire in vain. I am not going to go through it in vain.
Yeah.
And I promised myself that I'd find a way to convert my personal adversity into an advantage. And I'm not going to lie, my life has changed completely. If I tell everybody this, if I never got sick with cancer, I would have been living my life as that physical therapist. I would have been doing okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I never got sick with cancer, there would be no positive-drip.com.
Right.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the way life has unfolded. It was
Oh,
it was
wow.
a terrible trial and tribulation to get here, but I'm here. I'm alive.
Yeah.
I get to share my story. And how
Wow.
dare I stop?
Right. Exactly.
And we get to share a few minutes together.
Yes. Yes. So, Nelson, do you mind if we go back a little bit and just, do you mind saying what your diagnosis was?
This is the craziest part of the story.
Oh my gosh, there's more.
Yes.
Wow.
The CT scans, the MRIs, they
Uh-huh.
showed the tumors in my abdominal area. They showed tumors throughout my groin area. But
Uh-huh.
every single objective test we took was negative.
Oh.
Nobody could find the primary. Nobody knew where
Hmm.
to kill the mothership. And
Right.
that's why my first doctors threw up their hands up in the air and gave up on me. And then they transferred me to this great hospital in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and they took a chance on me. I'll never
Yeah.
forget this. My doctors stood there with the consultation, arms were folded, and then they said, "We're going to try, Mrs. Beltijar. That's my mom. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to try. We're going to put him in a bed. We're going to try." And
Mm-hmm.
that's when it started. And I started living in a hospital 24/7.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they started throwing different cocktails at me.
Yeah.
I guess like different chemotherapy cocktails. I thought everything was
Uh-huh.
all the same.
Right. Yeah.
And then one day, it's the week after
Mm-hmm.
death came to visit me in my bed on the weekend.
Mm.
Death gave me a choice to leave the planet,
Mm-hmm.
but I told it to go away, not yet.
Right.
And that week, my doctors came in and they said, something we've done has made your tumor markers drop.
Okay.
And then they said, okay, we're going to keep trying all these different things. And
Mm-hmm.
then everything just started dropping.
Mm-hmm.
And my case was put in front of all the different boards, all the
Yeah.
different hospitals. Everybody was
Right.
confused.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that I ended up in the right place at the right time.
Uh-huh.
They saved my life,
Right.
and I'm still here.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, still no definitive name for what you had. Wow. That is insane. There was no, even with the tumor removal, no, they didn't send the biopsy off to lab to test or anything. They
That
just
was
know it's cancer, but
Yeah, that's they all said, we don't know where it is.
oh my
We can't
gosh.
find it. And
Oh,
that's why they were all so scared.
right.
You know,
Wow.
that's
That,
why and that's why they were all so scared. And so was
mhm.
I. And
Wow.
but it's okay. It's a happy ending.
Right. It
It's
is. Well, the
whew,
ending isn't here yet. You're just barely beginning. You're just barely beginning. And I'm so thankful to have you here with me today to tell your story and to be just thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that story. I too myself, and we didn't discuss this during the meet and greet because I love to have little surprise nuggets here and there, but I too myself was diagnosed with cancer. But my cancer was nothing compared to what you went through. Mine was carcinoma in situ, which is cancer in sight, which is very localized and removable when found. And so, lucky for me, it was very, very early on. But for me, and I've never said this on the show before, it's never come up. And so, this is the very first time it's ever come up on the show. Is for me, all I get is we see hyperplasia, which is abnormal cells in this location. We don't know what it is, but until we figure it out and bring you in for a biopsy to get it confirmed, go ahead and check out cancer.org. That
oh
on a phone call, on a phone call. And so here I am making my appointment. All I hear is cancer.org, and everything else she had to say was like Charlie Brown mode. There was no longer nothing made sense to me. I couldn't hear anything. I was actually driving I think I was picking my kids up from school. They were 3 and 5 at the time. I was driving them home from school, and I had to pull over to stop, and they're like in the back seat saying, "Mommy, mommy, what's going on?" And I'm on the phone, and all I heard was cancer.org, and just my whole like world just like was a complete blur at that moment in the car. But just hearing those words are so scary. But lucky for me, again, I was able to, they did the biopsy, they did the procedure, they did one procedure to remove the cancer cells, wasn't enough, deemed that it wasn't enough, came back in for a more invasive procedure, was able to remove, and was, and since then I've been cancer free. But thank you. But not to the extent of your story. I can only imagine the feelings. Like now, like I'm holding back tears just remembering and rehashing my story and how it went down at the beginning. I can only imagine what it's like for you through that extensive period of time, being told we don't know where it's coming from, we don't know what it is, not having answers. Oh, Nelson, I feel for you. I can't even imagine like going through what you did go through. That is absolutely insane. But I am so thankful that they kept throwing different cocktails at you and beating the heck out of cancer and making sure that you're here with us today to share your story.
Wow, so, Jasmine, I just want to say I'm sending you a big virtual hug.
Yes.
And yes. Holy moly, I'm still picking my jaw off the floor.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry you had to go through that. But the one thing, then you and I, oh my gosh, you and I and every person on the planet has a story to tell. Mm-hmm. We all have a story to tell. And I honestly believe that we all of us should share our stories of struggle, shortcomings, right. Failure, hurt, loss, exactly. Pain,
yes,
and victory. Yes. Because our story might be mm-hmm. the one thing that'll help someone out there believe that they can climb out of whatever hole they're currently stuck in. Mm-hmm. And if I had only known you in 2016, that would, wow. Yeah. But I want to thank you for trusting me with your story. I did not expect to get that today. Mm-hmm. And high five, sister.
High five.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So, and it's a scary thing because I think maybe, deep down for you, there's a thought that, well, we've never really defined what it is or where it's coming from. So with me, the kind of end result that I got after everything was said and done was there's a strong likelihood you may see this resurface in 5 to 10 years. And right now I'm 12 years out from the initial diagnosis. And so I feel like every year before my annual exam, I live in fear of going, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? And when I have my exam, I'm constantly checking to see if results are back. And so it's like that constant living in fear, never knowing when the last day is going to be, or not necessarily the last day where the next diagnosis is going to be. It's a scary feeling. Yeah. Which is why Comfort Kills is here today, and why for you, the positive drip, because we feel so pulled to have to share our stories. And I've never even, I'm pretty like, we're 50 episodes in at this point. I have not shared this story with anyone yet. And, but just being able to say that there are so many different stories out there of people coming out from the ashes or coming out from a diagnosis or whatever the case is, that, it's deserving of a platform to be shared, and people need to hear it because there are other people going through very, very similar journeys as you and I. And everybody else that's been on the show to share it. So thank you for being here with me today.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with me. You know what? The powers that be that wanted to take you and I off this planet, they're angry because now you and I know one another.
Yes.
They're not sleeping at all. You
exactly.
and I, we know one another now, and we're going to make sure that we share our story, shine our light, and give people hope to believe in believing that it's possible to win.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Nelson. Oh, wasn't planning on going there. We haven't even started with questions yet. All right. So, question number one. No. All right. So during this dark chapter of your life, because I know who my supporters were, who were your supporters?
Oh man, thank God. My mom is a retired nurse,
Ah, yeah.
and my sister happened to be a pharmacist downtown working at a neighboring hospital. And my sister would drive my mom in every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. No, from about 9:30 a.m. to about 7 p.m. And she
Mm.
stayed with me Monday through Friday.
Oh, wow.
And then through thick and thin, through all the treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And then my friends and family would take shifts from 7 o'clock on till 7 in the morning
Wow.
because I was afraid. My biggest fear, Jasmine,
Mm-hmm.
was that I was afraid that I was. My biggest fear was that I was gonna. My biggest fear was that I was gonna die alone.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I made my mom promise that just promise me that no matter what happens, I don't die alone. And then that's when my friends and family took shifts
Mm-hmm.
and they stayed with me overnight.
Mm.
And if I may just use your platform,
Of course.
I'm a believer of God and Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and my faith was tested, and I hung on to God and Jesus. I really did. And I was angry. Like, why are you putting me through this? You know what I do with my life. You know what I do.
Right.
Why are you putting me through this? But I just, you know what they say, faith untested can't be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this was my test.
Yeah.
And then outside of those physical people, the one thing that I did,
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine, have you ever used this thing called mental imagery
Yes,
or,
yes.
or visualization?
Yes, yes. But for our listeners and viewers, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, as you know, I was stuck in the hospital. I was
Mm-hmm.
living in the bed 24/7. My
Right.
body was stuck there.
Yeah.
My body. But I refused to let my brain be a
Mm.
prisoner of those four walls of the hospital.
Okay.
And every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine myself living outside of the hospital, going through my regular route to work, my regular patients, my regular
Mm-hmm.
conversations, my regular arguments, my
Mm-hmm.
regular interactions with friends and family,
Yeah.
my regular errands. I would live a typical Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in my brain,
Oh,
in my
wow.
brain,
Mm.
trying to convince my subconscious that I was out there in the world living instead of the hospital,
Yeah.
slowly dying.
Wow.
And that was a game I played with myself.
Uh-huh.
I played with myself.
Okay.
And can I share one more story of mental imagery?
Absolutely. Yes, yes. Of course.
Have you ever played this video game called Pac-Man?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Pac-Man, on the screen, waka 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 waka
Yep.
waka waka waka,
Mm-hmm.
eating up all the dots.
Yes.
Every day after lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime, I would lie in my bed, imagining, having this visualization that I had an
Yeah.
internal Pac-Man icon in my body, eating up the cancer cells.
Yes.
Walk, 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 all day.
Uh-huh.
I would do that. You know, you and I are health professionals, and we've learned along our travels
Mm-hmm.
that there's a mind, body, spirit connection. And but we've learned that through
Mm-hmm.
books, and to us, those are just words on a page.
Yeah.
But then when the rubber met the road, and I was where I was, I said, you know what? I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just suspended my disbelief long enough to slide those tools of mental imagery and visualization into part of my rehab. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I am not a professional in the psychomotor world. And, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but I'm still here
Mm-hmm.
and I get to share my story. And one of the last things that I used for mental imagery was, as you know, I was stuck in that wheelchair for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't walk, but
Yeah.
but I would visualize myself walking down a specific street,
Mm-hmm.
passing by specific buildings, specific gas stations, hanging out with a specific group of people, high-fiving these specific group of people, crossing a finish line in my mind. I played games in my head. Like, I don't know if you ever heard this, but everything in the world is born twice. Once in the mind and then once in the world. And I had that written in my notebook in the hospital. Everything in this world is born twice, once in the mind and once in the world. And I had that written down, and it was screaming at me from my notebook. And I said, let's try.
Yeah.
And anyone who's willing to sit down with me, I tell them the power of visualization and mental imagery. Again, I'm not an expert,
Right.
but that's what I did. People may not agree with me, but I'm still here.
Right. But why
And
wouldn't they agree with you? What's the point of disputing what you have to say if it's harmless? It's literally harmless to anyone, even to yourself, to be able to have those mental imageries and distract yourself from your day-to-day reality to being able to put yourself into another world and visualizing that and giving your mental health some happiness, some life.
Yes, you know what, you said it great. Yes, I put myself into another world.
Hmm.
You're right. I created my own different reality
Yeah, yeah.
where I was winning.
Hmm. Hmm.
And people have always told me that the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's wrong.
Hmm.
So something I learned in my undergrad a long time ago.
Yeah,
I'm glad I went to that class.
right. Very nice. Yeah, that's great advice. And I think that's great advice for a lot of people who are, no matter what they're going through, right? Whether they are facing a medical diagnosis or, we spoke about my husband when we were off camera earlier about just being at war, being in a totally different place that's not in your normal element and not exactly where you prefer to be. It's a really good way to escape, even if just for a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. So true. So true. Yes. It was like my ace. It was like my ace up my sleeve.
Hmm.
I didn't
Hmm.
know at the time, but I'll tell anybody, dip into it. If you can, just
Yeah.
try it. You got
Yeah.
nothing to lose.
Exactly. Yeah, it's harmless, which is and costs nothing. It's just all it costs is your imagination. And so I think that's pretty amazing. That's great advice. So Nelson, do you have any other resources or advice that you would share with somebody who may be following a similar journey as you, where they were given a diagnosis or they are hospital bound for the time being because of an accident? Something that you would, some resources that you would suggest that really helped you cope with everything.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Oh my gosh. The one thing that I could control. Actually,
Mhm.
the one thing that every person on the planet can control is their attitude.
Yeah.
And I did everything I could to protect my attitude.
Mhm.
Just like anyone on the planet could. I did everything I could to protect my attitude. I would read from a positive mental attitude book.
Okay.
You know, people who've gone through trials and tribulations. If they
Yeah.
could succeed, why can't I? And
Mhm.
for those times I couldn't read, and there were a lot of times I couldn't read, I would plug into an audiobook or a podcast, or I'd watch a YouTube video that
Yeah.
would help uplift and esteem me and
Mhm.
make me feel that yes, it's possible, you know.
Mhm.
And then if I didn't have time to read or listen to an audio version of information,
Mhm.
I always made sure that I surrounded myself with people that truly wanted to see me win. I stayed away
Mhm.
from those people who said no, don't, won't, can't, come on, you're
Yeah.
sick, they've written
Yeah.
you off, get your will done, who's your power of attorney, blah, blah, blah,
Oh.
blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
And we all have friends, we all have family,
Mhm.
we all have coworkers that want to
Yeah.
rain on your parade.
Yeah.
And it was like 2016 and in
Mhm.
September 2016. And I said, look, guys, I love you dearly. Thanks for
Mhm.
coming to visit me. But
Mhm.
I don't want to see you guys until maybe September 30th,
Mhm.
2020.
Just get out of here.
That was the most politest way I could tell them to
Hmm.
yes, you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, of course, absolutely.
And then the one thing was I made sure I didn't blame myself for what was happening to me.
Mm, that's important.
You know,
Yeah,
I was thinking again, why me? How did this happen? What did I do wrong? I
right,
was healthy. I did everything
right.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
but yet but all I did was I did everything to protect my attitude.
Mm,
I had to. That's the only thing I could do. I could
mhm.
protect my thoughts.
Yeah,
Actually, it's yeah, protect my thoughts. Yeah, I had to protect everything that was going through my brain because it could affect the insides at the molecular level. And that's what I did. And I did a lot of praying. Like maybe one day you can have me on and I'll share a story that's unbelievable, but it happened. And but I hung
right.
on to my faith. I
Yeah,
hung on to my faith, and I didn't let go.
yeah.
Yes, that's how I got through it.
That's really important. I think in my situation, one of the things I did the most was blaming myself. I think, and just kind of taking ownership for what happened to me because of something I've done, and yeah, and then feeling I had such a it's a very fortunate at that time when my husband was he was stationed in DC, and that's where I'm from originally. So my mom was right up the road. I mean, she was no more than 30 minutes away from me. And so she was there constantly checking on me, bringing meals for the family to eat and everything. And she was really like the biggest supporter at the time for me. And I had such and being a military family, like everybody that I grew up with in that area I'd already been gone for 10 years by this point. And so I don't know anybody anymore. Like I have, yeah, sure. I have friends that I grew up with in the neighborhood, in the area, but we don't talk like that for me to just suddenly pick up the phone and say, hey, guess what? I'm here. By the way, I have cancer or, anything like that. So I really had a very, very small circle. And I think you're right in that having a really strong network is incredibly important because I think my mom's a worrywart, and so she worried more than I did. I think she lost more weight than I did during the weeks that we were waiting for results to come back to tell us definitively what it is, how aggressive it has gotten, and stuff like that. And so I did nothing but blame myself, and I think that was really, really bad for my mental health. And I think you're right in saying, and no, not that I think I know you're right in saying that you have to take you out of it and take the blame out of it, and see all the positives, I guess, around you, not necessarily with the situation, but just around you. So that's important.
Yes, yes. Wow, wow. It sounds like I'm preaching to the choir.
No, I have a lot to learn from you yet. So, so Nelson, so your diagnosis was in 2016. The remainder of 2016 was a nightmare. 2017 was even more a bigger nightmare with just repeat treatments and everything that was just going on in your world. And then on January 1st, 2018, I think is the correct date when I looked back on your website, was when you started your blog.
Was it
Correct?
Jan? Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think so. I think it was 1/1/2018 was what the date was written for when I looked back. And it just looked like you were putting hope into this world. A lot, like I read through a couple of your blogs, and a lot of the articles was just you were now putting just hope back into this world. And it was very interesting the angle that you took. Instead of going on there and saying, woe is me, and that, this is it was not like I wouldn't have known from reading 2-3 blogs initially that you started, knowing that you had wrote that with intentions for your niece and nephews and for your family as a legacy that you were leaving behind for them. You really were unselfishly just trying to put good nuggets back into the world for people to see a positive light no matter what their situation was. It was very not Nelson Beltijar. It was just the positive drip. It was just putting positive things back into the world. And so can you maybe elaborate a little bit on the angle that you were taking, or if you even knew that it was intentional at the time?
Like I said, that blog, thepositivedrip.com, was an
Mm-hmm.
accident.
Yeah.
I just wanted to leave stuff behind for them.
Right.
Because in every single person, every single qualified person was telling me, you're going to die.
Mm.
And I love my family. And the
Mm-hmm.
people that I care about, I love. I love
Yeah.
with every fiber of my being. That's the human being I am. And I still wanted to be a part of their lives after I was gone. And that's why I wrote the blog.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is, see, I am not the most technical person in the world. I remember writing that blog, my very, very first blog entry.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I told you I had a 6-year-old nephew?
Mm-hmm.
His
Yes.
name is Awesome Austin.
Okay.
I was sitting there at the table writing my very first article,
Uh-huh.
scared, terrified
Mm-hmm.
to put this into the world because people were going to look at it, read it, probably critique it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walked up to me, this little 6-year-old, and he asked me, "What's wrong?"
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that I'm having trouble uploading my blog sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And then through the eyes of a child, that 6-year-old boy
Yeah.
took his 6-year-old finger, leaned over my laptop, and he pressed the send button. He pressed the send button, and
Yeah.
everything was in slow motion. No. And he pressed the send button,
Uh-huh.
and in a blink of an eye, thepositivedrip.com entered cyberspace,
Yeah.
and it became real. Hey, Austin, come here, come here, come here. Austin just walked into the room. His ears.
Hi, awesome Austin. Hi.
Hi.
So I hear you're awesome Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, no, I don't go by that anymore.
That's Dr. Jasmine.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being the starter in the positive drip. You kind of made sure that like you confirmed it and sent, sealed, and delivered, huh?
I'm his proofreader.
You're his proofreader.
I'm his proofreader for all his
Mm.
articles that's up on his blog.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That is so awesome. So I also noticed, and Austin, if you just want to hang out for just another second, I noticed that at the end of Uncle Nelson's blog, he always writes, "Have a great day. You deserve it." What do you think about that? It's okay. It's okay. You're
What
a
do you
little
think?
camera shy.
What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
Jazz.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Yeah, I agree. I like it.
But Austin's favorite line is when I go, "I'm Nelson Beltijar from thepositivedrip.com, and I wish you."
All a great life.
Oh, yes. I love it. I love it. You're perfect. Thank you. Thank you for showing up and just introducing yourself.
You know what?
He's like, oh my goodness.
His ears must have been burning
Yeah.
because, and I tell everybody, there are a lot of things I suck at.
Mm-hmm.
Uploading stuff on YouTube, putting stuff on my blog. I get my
Mm-hmm.
younger cousins to put all that stuff up for me. I
Yeah.
just create the content.
Okay.
And it's true. Awesome Austin is my proofreader.
Okay.
He makes sure that my spelling is right, commas are
Yeah.
where they should be, semicolons
perfect.
here,
Yeah.
and
That's perfect.
he's an active part of it, and he's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to stay alive.
Yeah. Oh.
And now that you met him,
Uh-huh.
you see why I desperately still wanted to be here no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get to be here.
That's
Yes.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you have awesome Austin in your life and that you have so many positive influences in your life. That's really important. I think that's incredibly important, is just having those influences. Even if it's 50 people or 5 people, just knowing who your circle is so important. So he was in that picture too that you had shared for the intro that we use. Then I think he was sitting next to you during the event. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that event was that we saw pictures from?
Yes, that event there's an annual cancer walk that we have every year
Uh-huh.
before COVID hit.
Okay.
And it is like a fundraiser for cancer. It is a 1 kilometer walk.
Okay.
And in that video that I think you're referring to,
Uh-huh.
you'll notice that I was in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And my friends and family participated in that walk, and they walked alongside me. and they treated it like a relay, and I was the baton.
Ah,
And everybody who was there had their part of the 1 kilometer walk where they got to push me.
uh-huh.
And then when we got to that finish line with the balloons and everything and
Yeah.
people screaming and cheering, it was everything that was right with the world.
Yes.
And then once I crossed that finish line, I promised myself that I'm going to walk again. I'm going to find a way to walk. I promised myself I was going to walk.
Yeah.
But it was my friends and family. They were literally the wind beneath my wings. They
Yes.
gave me every single reason to believe that I could win and that I had a reason to stay here. And I hung on to them. I really did. I only made sure I hung around with quality people. And like I said, those naysayers,
Yeah.
I just said, you know what? I don't want to see you till 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, oh my gosh, it's 2021 now.
It is.
I haven't
You
seen
haven't
it
seen
since
them?
2016.
Okay. That's good. That's good. They got the hint. They got the hint.
Jasmine, I just realized it right now.
That is so funny. I was gonna ask you. I was like, so did they show up last year? That is too funny. They got the hint. That's good. That's good. You got your message across. That's one way to do it.
Go rain on someone else's parade. So on January 3rd, 2021, I was going outside, and by then I was walking with one cane. I was up to one cane, but on the 3rd of January, I put that cane in the bucket where all the umbrellas are.
All right.
By the front door of the house.
Yes, that's awesome. That's so fantastic.
And I walked with no aids at all.
Wow.
And I had friends and family on that day, and we did our own version of our cancer walk.
Yeah.
And we walked down the street that I mentally imagined. We walked by that gas station, that Shell gas station, which I mentally imagined. We walked down to the well, we have this thing called like a 7-Eleven. It's a variety store down the street, and then we walked back home. But I had already seen that in my head in 2016 and 2017, and we did it. You know,
very nice.
We did it, and I don't know if you know this, but my dad, Mr. Gregorio Beltijar, just recently passed away on January 16th. And he was a man from humble beginnings. Thanks. Who taught us never to put off what we could do today for an unguaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes. And forgive me, my proofreader, Awesome Austin here, is telling me I said the wrong date. Here comes the star.
He said January. It's supposed to be December.
Oh, okay. Thank you. December.
My father passed away on
Oh,
December.
okay.
My father passed away December 16th.
Oh, wow. Right
See
before
that,
the holidays.
and that's exactly why I need a proofreader.
He's a good one. Look at he's like in the.
He's probably in the hallway making sure I don't screw this up.
That's perfect.
And because of my dad, he left us those nuggets. And I believe at that moment in time, I'm going to try this today. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. And we did it.
Yeah.
Man, we did it. And I look at that cane. I just look at it now. I just look at it whenever I pass by the door. Yeah. But I'm never going to put that away. It's going to remind me of where I was and how far I've came.
Yes.
And there's a story behind it. You know, maybe this will be some kind of magical cane one day. Who knows? But it's right there. But I'm walking again, and it's really true that my story does have a happy ending.
Yes. No, that's perfect. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, and congratulations on your success and your ability to be aid free. Aid free is important. I mean, I can only imagine how incredibly independent you feel from that. Like the independence you feel from now being able to do that as well. Like and I'm sure you see this every day in your physical therapy work when people are finally able to take that first step and then the second step. And it's just so rewarding to see that as a healthcare professional. But now here you are walking the walk, talking the talk, and doing it yourself. And just congratulations on that. That's huge. And I'm sure everybody around you is so excited to have you in a place where you feel that you're more liberated now more than ever before after that diagnosis. So thank you.
Yes, I feel totally liberated. The next thing on my to-do list is I
Yeah.
want to jog and run.
Oh, wow.
But that's next. Who knows when
That's
that'll be?
next.
But
Yeah.
I'm finally completely free standing on my own two legs. But
Yes.
the next thing, the next carrot I'm dangling in front of me is I
Uh-huh.
want to jog and trot.
Oh,
And
wow.
let's see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going to program it
exciting.
into my brain right now.
I can't wait. And and when you do, please, of course, like take videos and tag all the different social medias, and then that way I can see it and I can share it, because I love like revisiting guests and see what they're doing 6 months down the road. We're this channel is pretty new. We started in July of 2020, but I've been able to just even follow along in my guests to see what they've done so far since my July guests have done their interviews. And even they have like done just remarkable, amazing things. So please, remember me when that happens, because I would love to like just share and just be like, remember Nelson, when we interviewed in 2021, look where he is now. And so that would be so awesome. Thank you. So
Jasmine,
your blog.
Absolutely. It's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And I love that, because it's never a goodbye. We now share something here with this experience and just what we've shared with each other. So we are connected forever. So Nelson, so the blog becomes a reality thanks to awesome Austin. And, he hit send, it's out there into the world. And you tapped into it earlier, but you said that people have reached out to you from across the globe just to say what are they saying? What are they commenting?
There was a time, I guess, where I'd even fallen behind in my monthly article.
Yeah.
I put an article in on the 5th of every month.
Mm.
And there are times that I've fallen behind.
Oh.
And I'd get an email from somebody from Indonesia, India,
wow.
Germany,
Yeah.
Dominican Republic,
Uh-huh.
checking in on me, saying, "Hey, where's your article? Are you okay?
Aww.
Are you sick?
Uh-huh.
Have things gotten worse?
Yeah.
Are you okay?" And then I'm going, "Oh my gosh, there's people actually reading my stuff," because we don't know. For all I know, it could be crickets.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how I knew.
Mm.
I'm in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think this is who I'm supposed to be right now. And I'm okay with that.
That's awesome. And I did notice in your blog, I think the February 5th blog was the one that you wrote, "See you in March." And so now that explains it. That explains. I thought it was kind of awkward, like, that you were leaving a message to say, "I'm not writing anything, but I'll see you next month." But now I understand why. So I thank you for that explanation, that, people are checking in on you. And that's incredibly amazing, is that you've been able to touch the lives of so many out there in this world, that people are genuinely caring for you and wanting to see you continue to contribute to this blog and contribute to the world in that kind of way. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. I guess it's because that they may see a part of themselves in my story.
Mm-hmm.
People have felt lost, alone, scared, helpless, lonely.
Yeah.
And we've all gone through adversity, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, just maybe, the fact that there's this crazy guy in Toronto who's letting it all hang out. If he can do it, sure, why not? And more importantly, let me see if I can reach out to this guy.
Yeah.
And you know what? Oh my gosh, he even replied to me back. And then it makes that connection even stronger.
Exactly.
It's like, you can do it. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Just like I said, I never thought that I would function in the world that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I'm not going to go through this illness in vain, nor are you, sister.
Right,
Comfort
exactly.
kills. Comfort
Yes.
kills ambition.
Yes. Thank you. And that's very true. And so, Nelson, if I gave you a billboard to put whatever it is you'd like to put on that billboard for the world to see, which I mean is not anything unusual for you with thepositivedrip.com, but if I were to give you a billboard to just put on display for the world to see, what would it say?
Okay. As you know, I was living in 5 different hospitals from 2016 2017.
Yeah.
I was surrounded by death and illness 24/7.
Yeah.
But while I was living there, the sky opened up and I had this amazing life-altering epiphany. And I had learned and realized that the biggest lie, the greatest lie, the biggest lie that we've all been led to believe,
Yeah.
even me included, is that we all have time and an unlimited amount of some days and a long list of I'll do it later opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's not the truth. That's completely wrong, because no man or woman knows when their last breath will be. And if there's anyone, if I can just share this with anyone out there, I beg you to not let the distractions of life win. I'm guilty of it too. I can get distracted. A distraction is anything that pulls us off the course or the road en route to achievement.
Yes.
Do not let the distraction win. And chase down your personal check marks. So that way, when you do pass away, you'll die empty, leaving or taking or not bringing any unfinished earthly business with you to the grave.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you've maxed out your human experience on earth. And I promise you, you will inspire a couple people along the way to try and do the same thing.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Nelson. Thank you for that. So that brings me to this next question that I had not planned, which is, if you were given the option to know the date and time of your death, would you like to know?
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And it's funny how you mention that. As morbid as this may be, you talked about a vision board earlier. I've written my obituary. And I've promised to make myself accountable to the words on that page. So that way, when I do leave, when it's all said and done, he did. Yeah, he did. And I've reduced who I am to 7 words.
Yeah.
And those 7 words are: 1 is faith in God, integrity, which is the ability to do the right thing all the time, especially when nobody is watching.
Exactly. Yeah.
Empathy, the ability to see the world from another person's point of view, which takes judgment away, which brings understanding and acceptance. Skill a lot of people don't have in this self-centered world.
Yeah.
And resilience, the ability to fall down 7 times, stand back up 8, but also to be able to bend, but not break. And that last word, that 7th word that sums me up, is the word play. Enjoy time.
Yeah.
Enjoy time, because you don't know when it's going to be your last day. And if those 7 words are written on my tombstone, I'll be okay with that.
That's awesome. That's incredible, and thank you so much for that. And I debate that a lot, and I think that question, even the first time I've heard that question, was before my cancer diagnosis, and I don't know. I don't really know if I want to know, or if I don't. I do want to know or don't want to know. I'm a firm believer in live life like you were dying, like Tim McGraw says in his song. That's my favorite song, brings me to tear every single time. But I also, at the same time, like, I am such a type A type person that I would like to know so that I could plan, make sure everything's planned. But I think I've evolved and grown in my world and my life enough to say at this point, that if I die tomorrow and I left unfinished business, that's because I did that to myself, not because of anything else. And so what I need to do is strive to leave behind that legacy, to do everything that I can to the fullest in order to leave life with no regrets. You know, they say the richest place in the world is the graveyard. Everybody's dreams goes there to die with them. And so I firmly believe that. And, you know, this is why, you know, people like you and I are doing what we're doing, because it took a life event, and maybe it didn't for you, but for me, I think if I felt like it took a life event for it to happen, for me to say, okay, life is really short. I never know when the next diagnosis is going to happen. I never know when, you know, I take the car out for a drive and something could happen then. And I just don't know. We don't know. So death and dying happens every day around us. And we just have to live life to the fullest. We really do.
Amen, Jasmine. Amen.
So, Nelson, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Was there anything that you and I haven't had a chance to discuss that you would like to discuss before we start wrapping up?
You took me on a journey that was deep in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
But because I hung out with you for a while, it reminded me of everything I had to go through. But more importantly, it's inspired me to keep doing what I'm doing. Because like I said, you and I are not going to go through this terrible turmoil in vain.
Yes. Yes.
And thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here and being vulnerable today. If our guests would like to visit you, one more time, what's that website that people can find you at?
Oh, if your friends, family, audience would love to come visit me, visit me at www.thepositivedrip.com.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much, Nelson, for coming out today, sharing your incredible story, your journey, and the things that you've done to give back to the community and give back to the world in, you know, one positive drip at a time. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Dr. Jazz.